Good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are, perhaps even good evening. I'm here with the second part of my book tour, and today we're going to look at the art of Sulamith Wülfing, a German artist who you very possibly have never heard of. I had never heard of her until I moved to Germany, and I feel that I'm really lucky to have discovered her. If you were really into angels and stuff in the 1970s, you may have had her postcards or some of her little books, but she has not maintained a lot of popularity, and unfortunately her work is predominantly in private collections, and there are very, very few compilations and albums available to buy. Both of these are secondhand. I bought them both in Freiburg. And I feel very lucky to have them. So this one here that I'm looking at now was published in 1978, a year after her death. It's a Dutch publication printed in Italy. And the other one that we'll look at here was published in the 1930s. So Sulamith Wülfing was German. She was born near Wuppertal in 1901. Her parents were evangelicals, but they were very into sort of esoteric stuff and mysticism, and as a result, she got this really interesting, very non-German sounding name. She did go to art school, and she started her own verlag, or her own little publishing company for her cards, in 1929. She works predominantly with white gouache, graphite, with watercolor, very delicate work, very sensitive, and does a lot of fairy tales, a lot of religious inspired stuff. She also did some writing. She illustrated a lot of her own work. Yeah, she's a really wonderful artist. And when I've been in vintage and classical fairy tale illustration groups, most people my age don't know who she is, but people who were more collectors in the 1970s still remember her, and from North America. There were calendars and postcards that you could get. But I mean, I certainly, until I moved to Germany, I had never heard of her. So again, I'm really happy to have come and discovered her as an artist. As I said before, most of her work is in private collections. There is no singular, really, there is, you know, some interest in her. You can buy like little books of sort of spiritual sayings or angels or little proverbs or little fairy tale books on German Amazon. They're very small. They're about this big. And they have some of her books. So you can still buy like little books that feature her work and little cards. But finding an art book like this, like I'm flipping through now, is very, very unusual. You just don't see it. Unfortunately, there is no recent publication that's like a collection of her work, like a lot of other artists like Arthur Rackham or Kai Nielsen. She's just very much really not popular anymore, and I think that's really a shame. I think her work is really beautiful, and I think she has a very distinct look. This is almost a bit like Brian Froud here. I think today she would actually do quite well if you're looking for somebody a little bit different. Really beautiful, really delicate work. Again, a lot of fairy tales, a lot of angels. Yeah, she was very active in the 1930s. She published a lot of her stuff and did most of her work then. And of course, during the Dritte Reich, during the Nazi control of Germany, she was not very popular with the Nazis. They did not really care for her. I think she also had a lot of friends in the French resistance. She was married. Her first child died soon after he was born, and the second, I think, lived with her. You can see this is a really old book with the old German particular block type. I'm trying to find out where this book was. So this one here, the dedication here, is for Christmas for 1934. So yeah, she wasn't really able to work during the Third Reich. It was really hard on her. And she continued to work after. So yeah, if you happen to see work of hers, if you were to see an album like this in a used bookstore or somewhere, I would definitely pick it up. You can see this is one of the older style albums where you have a piece of tissue paper and then it's protecting the print, which has been glued onto the page underneath. You can find quite a lot of these in Germany in old bookstores if you know where to look. I didn't pay a lot for this. I think I paid about 20 euros for this book, and it's really one of my most treasured books in my collection. You can see it's very, very little text, definitely some age spots, but overall the book is in pretty good condition. I was pretty happy to find it. I think that I actually might have got this out of one of the open air flea markets. And if I recall correctly, I bartered down a bit for it. So anyway, here we have Stille Nacht, Heilige Nacht. And the text for the song next to it. The ink is green, it's very nice. And then you have here her illustration. So yeah, Sulamith Wülfing, if you get a chance, you can actually find a lot of her work on Pinterest. I would really recommend looking up her work and looking for material on her. She's a really cool artist. Again, one of these artists who's not hugely known anymore for people of my generation or outside of Europe. So I would definitely recommend her. Hopefully looking through this album, you've seen some really, really nice work and have gotten a little bit kind of, it's sort of sparked your interest. So that's Sulamith Wülfing.